It's September 7th, 2023. This is Roqe. There. Welcome to episode 285 of Roqe. I'm Jian Ghomeshi. Hello to you from Toronto. Hello to you from Canada. Salam Dostan Aziz. Durud bar shoma. Hope you're doing well wherever you are tuning in from around the world. We are on our ongoing mission to build a new audiovisual encyclopedia of Iranian diaspora identity. This is the thinking person's Roqe music. You see, the normal music's like uppity. This is this is a new thinking era.
It's different.
The other shows there was no thinking.
No thinking.
Now
in the other
thinking.
Shows.
Yes, thinking music.
It's the new season.
Welcome to the new season of Roqe. Actually, it's almost a new season of Roqe. This is a new episode, but the season preview and our actual season launch is next week, Thursday, September 14th. Does that make any sense?
It makes total sense.
How does it make sense?
We've got a big show next week, which needs a preview, which is why we're here.
I see. The big launch is next week, so this is a preview of the big launch.
Exactly.
But this is a new show.
New show.
So is this part of the new season or not part of the new season?
Technically, yes. But it's not the first episode, it's the preview.
I like how I make these decisions and then I ask you why they make
Someone's
sense.
got to answer for it.
That is the voice of smart Pegah, back for another season here after a little summer respite. Hello, smart Pegah. Nice to have you in the studio.
Hello. And
our returning champion, I should also mention, journalist and producer Mahsa Mortazavi, also here in the studio. Hello.
Hi, Jian. Thank you for having me
You've
again.
promised me we're going to see a lot more of you.
Yes.
Here in our studio, especially as part of the Roqe Roundup. It's a pleasure to have you here. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
So, okay, let me explain this. So next week is our season launch.
Yes.
A big show. It's entitled The Uprising 1 year later. A lot of well-known and familiar names, prominent Iranians from around the world will be joining us for a reflection of the state of the Iranian community, the state of Iran, and the state of the uprising for freedom and democracy in Iran, almost exactly 1 year after the killing of Massa Amini. That's next week. In the meantime, we're going to set up our new season on this show, talking about what we've missed discussing over the last few weeks when we're doing best of versions of the show. What's been happening in Iran and across the diaspora. We're going to do our first Roqe Roundup of the season. Pegah, of course, you're here, and Massa's here. And we're going to gear up to next week's anniversary and our tribute show. And also we're going to get to some personal reflections on how we've spent the summer or what we've been doing. First of all, it's really hot in here.
It is.
And it's hot in Toronto.
Yes. It's, what do they call it? Indian summer? Is that what it is?
I don't know if I think that's a racist. No. I don't think you can say that anymore.
Isn't that what they call it when
it is what we used to call it, yeah.
Politically correct or not?
Indian summer used to be meaning like we're into the fall, but it suddenly gets warm for a week. I think it's I
no longer the term used.
I think you can say anything with a racial name.
Officially, it's not fall yet. We're still in summer.
Right.
That's true.
So I don't think Indian summer can happen yet.
Okay.
Yeah. Even if it's a correct term. I think it needs to be later. If it's not a correct term, our apologies. But the thing about Toronto being hot is I've spent a bunch of the summer traveling, or in August I was in a few different places, and I was seeing some friends, some Iranian friends as well in far places.
Right.
And they always have this attitude with Toronto. Like, the Picasso, that guy?
Yeah.
The guy, the kickboxer,
Yes.
kickboxer. He's a champion kickboxer.
Right.
He's very, very, very healthy guy.
I'm wondering how this is going to be.
I'm always
relevant
around him,
to...
and I'm like, I'm aware of how healthy he is.
Okay.
So I saw him in Istanbul.
Right.
Really nice guy. He's my friend. Right. I always say, hey, come to Toronto, and he's a guy from Iran who lived in Germany, and now he's in Istanbul. Maybe he'll go back to Germany. He starts with where am I going to stay, in an igloo? This stuff about Canada being so cold, right? And this is the attitude that people have about Canada. Meantime, I came back and it's way hotter here than it is in Istanbul. It's too hot, in fact.
We get a bad rep for just being cold.
Yeah. We're badbacht.
Yes, that's a good word.
But
Maybe we advertise it too.
Yes.
As Canadians. We always brag about how cold and how snowy it is.
Do we brag
We do.
no, I
about
think you're-
cold?
Yeah. I
don't know if I've
brag
ever
about
bragged
how
about
much snow we
cold.
get to
But
my
I-
friends in Iran.
But I do think there's an Iranian conception of, like, they've seen a couple of, like, images of. I mean, when we were in the middle of the protests in the winter, and then we were trudging around, so they see that and they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, Canada, polar bears," or something. But anyway, message to all of you out there, it ain't quite Dubai, but it's
warm.
hot here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But can I tell you something? When I was coming to Canada, one of my friends told me, when you go there and when you walk, when it's cold, if your ear falls off due to frostbite, just pick it up and put it in your mouth. That's how cold they think it is here in Canada.
Well, also,
Wow. I'm
Very
just
graphic.
imagining
but
this.
aren't there places? I mean, I know there are places in Iran, the north half of the country,
Yeah.
that have 4 seasons as well, right? It's not just maybe they're not
And a
quite.
very cold season, like in Ardabil.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that
Tabriz.
area.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not sun and warm in it's winter, right? Anyway, I mean, so anyway, here it's hot in Toronto.
It is.
This the Picasso, with the shapely, the healthy, but scared of the
Scared
cold.
of a little bit of cold.
Yeah, scared of the cold. I hope he's listening. So I was on a trip. I
Yeah.
went. I was in Dubai, and I was in. I went to Southeast Asia. I love Cambodia,
Yes.
and I was in Turkey, and it's so good to go. I always advocate, if you can do so, and in my case, economically get around. It's really worth it to go to as many places in the world as you can.
Yeah, that's a
an
lot
education.
of traveling, actually. I didn't realize you had gone so many different places.
It is a lot of traveling, and everywhere I go, people think I'm from another place. I can't go. They always think like they. I mean, in other words, no one guesses where I'm my ancestry.
Really?
Yeah. I was thinking about telling you guys this, and I was thinking you two don't have this problem because you're both Iranian, but how do I say this? You don't have the ethnic look that I do somehow.
The ethnic
Like nobody
look.
get. Do
What
people
is
even
that?
know? Do people?
No, I was actually going to
Get,
say.
you look like a white person.
Nobody, well, I can't say nobody, but there's a lot of people who don't assume that I'm Iranian.
Right.
So it's a question. It's like, where are you from? That sort of
Right.
thing.
For me, it's always Persian.
Really?
They do.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you're a little bit more Persian looking. But when you go to somewhere,
I sound Persian too.
I always say, I'm like, why can't you tell I'm Iranian? That's always my question. Like, what is it that is not giving it away?
because you.
To me, I'm very Iranian looking.
But the weird thing for me is when I go somewhere, especially like it's a place where, for lack of a better term, I know Iranians don't like that, but where there's brown people there, there's like people like us. They think I'm them, like I go to Dubai
You blend
and they
in?
think I'm an Arab. Like they're like upset that I'm not understanding them in Arabic.
Right.
What is it? What's the matter with you?
How about
right?
India?
Then I go to, no, wait. I go to Turkey. 100% they think I'm Turkish. 100%. Like they kind of speak to me in Turkish, and also same thing. They get upset,
Right.
and they don't want to hear that I'm Iranian. And Cambodia, they think I'm a Bollywood star. They're more, and I'm not just like from India, but I'm in Bollywood somehow. They're like,
It's your hair.
you in movie. They do. I don't know what to do the accent. They say, oh, you're a Bollywood guy. So,
Interesting.
all the time, they think I'm somebody who, because the Bollywood films are very big there, and so that's their reference point. They don't know Iranian necessarily. I mean, there's not a lot of Iranians hanging out in Cambodia, so their reference for me is. But the Indians. When I went through India, like I was on an Indian airline, for example, to get from Dubai to Cambodia, and they know I'm not Indian.
yeah, they can tell
The
that.
Indians know I'm not Indian. Everybody else might think I'm Indian, but the Indians know. They're like, no, this guy. So the Arabs think I'm Arab, the Turks think I'm Turk.
But I think Middle Eastern men, like that's true for a lot of Middle Eastern men. I find it's hard to tell where within the Middle East they're from necessarily.
Yes. And also, throughout my long chameleon life of being guest as a number of things, I've had Greek, Italian, Spanish, Pakistani, like there's a million, Malaysian, like whatever. But it tends to be, it's usually in the region, and
Right.
it's funny to be in a place where they're really kind of, not happy that I'm not what they think that you're a Turk. Why? What's your problem? I mean, my mom is Azeri, so maybe that's they have
They
reason.
were picking up on that.
They're picking up on that and wondering why I'm not speaking. But yeah, you don't have that issue. Like if you go to Europe, they think you're probably European. You're of some kind, right?
I don't know. I think I don't know if anyone can guess. I get a lot of like, we can't tell what you are. That's what I get a lot. And I think it's also I've had a lot of people tell me, are you mixed?
Oh.
Because I think my eyes look like, I don't know, I have like very
Asian,
almond shaped eyes.
Yes.
So it's like people are always wondering, okay, well, she's got kind of like, different shaped eyes.
Would you guess her as Iranian?
I would not. The thing about Iranian is that our body language shows we are Iranian.
Oh.
Yeah. I can tell from somebody's walking
Does
from
my
behind.
body language
You
look
can
No.
spot the Iranians.
Mine doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
Oh,
no.
maybe because I
you
grew
grew
up.
up. You grew
Now
up.
I'm
That's so
intrigued.
funny.
Does
Yeah,
mine?
what is the body language?
The body
What's an
language is
example?
different. Even the way we blink, the Iranians, I can tell. Honestly.
But it is the dudes walk a certain way. Is that is it the way, is walking part of that?
I'm not going to say like dudes or
Okay.
women. It's just the way we walk, we talk, we blink, we like look away. We have our
Those acts though. I know exactly what you're talking about.
that is
Yeah.
different from everybody else's.
Now I'm not sure if I'm upset or not that I don't have those.
Well, she didn't even answer if I have it or not.
No,
Massa
you
just,
don't. No.
okay.
Did you grow up here?
I did.
right?
We're
Yeah.
Khariji.
You're
We are.
Khariji.
I
We
won't
are.
take that.
I'm not Khariji. I'm just recently Kharijid.
See,
Right.
I
Becoming
never,
Khariji.
I never
Yeah.
Starting to
liked,
walk different and not blink as much.
I never liked being labeled as Khariji.
Yeah, no, I know. Because you listen to Radio Javon in your car.
Yeah.
You're into that, yeah. I don't mind. I like keeping people guessing.
I like how that's the bar is like, if you listen to Radio Javon in your car.
we were at this party, this thing a couple of weeks ago, or last week or something, and Pegah was there, and it was the worst music. Like there was like honestly the worst Iranian pop that like there's obviously great Iranian pop.
The ones that
There's
make
stuff
you cry?
There's stuff that we love. I love the stuff that makes you cry. I'm talking about the 6/8 formula, bubblegum, whatever that stuff. Pegah knows every lyric. Every
know,
single,
okay,
even
okay.
people who've just come from Iran, like last week, were like, "What's up with this girl? Well, how do you know everything?" And then Super P was telling me it's because when you're in the car, 24/7, you have those songs playing and you're singing along to them.
You just
I'm getting a
mentioned
bad
she's
rep.
smart. You said it.
She's smart.
She just has to listen to a song once,
well,
That's what it is.
and she picks
See,
it up.
I like her justification.
you like you pretty much only listen to Persian music, right?
Like 80% of the time, yeah.
Except for that band that.
Except for Modern Talking. Let me tell you about Modern Talking. No, I'm joking. I don't listen to Modern Talking. But no, 80% of the time I'm listening to Iranian music, and it's a variety of Iranian music. And then 20% it's like house, electronic, that sort of thing.
So basically nothing. You don't listen to like English rock music.
No, like half the songs that you listen to I've never heard.
You've never heard Led Zeppelin.
No,
So weird.
probably not.
So interesting. You're really, and it's so interesting because you are Western, but you're
I guess
Yeah.
technically.
it's a fetishist, an Iranian fetishist. You know where the best Persian, having traveled everywhere, like Dubai and Turkey and going to places in Asia, where the best Persian food is?
Where?
Canada. Canada.
Canada.
Toronto. Everywhere.
It shouldn't be Tehran, the best Persian
Well,
food.
it should be, but even people, I mean, look, yeah, and I'm sure it is Tehran, or it's somewhere in Iran.
Yeah.
But outside of Iran,
Canada.
it's so clear to me.
You're used to it, though.
I go to I really seek out the restaurants. I try and find great Persian food, and honestly, even the people in these places, anybody who's come to Toronto goes, yeah, you guys, the restaurants there they're the closest thing you can get to being in Iran in terms of the quality of the food. It's better than that, better than LA.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say that because we have a big listenership in LA. But,
But
honestly,
anyone
there's
who's
a couple of
come
kababibs there that are great. But in terms of great Iranian restaurants,
Yeah.
Toronto's got it wiped off the map.
I have lots of friends who visit from LA, and they actually admit that we have much better Persian food here than they do.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the other thing I found. Anything of note in your summer, Pegah, before we get to the roundup? And
Well, actually, I wanted to tell you a funny story about Modern Talking. We kind of went into it, but I'll bring it back. My mom came up to me one day and she was really excited and animated. And she's like, there's this concert that I really want to go to this summer. Can you get us tickets? And I was like, yeah, sure. You know, what concert? And I'm thinking it's going to be an Iranian, you know, musician or something like that. And she turns around. She's like, I sent it to you on Instagram. I'm like, okay, well, I pull up my Instagram and I look at it and I just burst out laughing because sure enough, she sent me a link to a concert for Modern Talking.
It's a disease. It's a disease Iranians have.
You don't like them?
What like them? I mean, it's horrible. It's a horrible experience. It's like cod liver oil. It's like something that is not good for your system. I thought it was a joke. I thought it was like when a cousin of mine introduced me. I was like, "Oh, you're kidding, right?" And he was like, "No." And then I realized that Iranians all know their songs.
Yeah.
No one in the world knows Modern Talking. Not even the people in Germany where they're from. The Germans don't know Modern Talking.
No,
Nobody knows Modern Talking except for Iranians.
No, honestly, my generation, we grew up with it.
Well, clearly.
Even a little bit older than I am, we grew up with it. And it was the only Khariji music that we had. So we didn't have much of a choice. It was either Michael Jackson or Modern Talking.
Well, that's Michael Jackson at least is. I mean, it's amazing to me. We have to do the documentary.
We have to.
Now the members of Modern Talking probably won't do it now because they'll have heard that I say horrible things. I don't know them. I'm sure they're very nice people. And one guy's very tanned. You know, they have the spray on tan or whatever that is. But I don't understand. And I'm guessing now, based on what we've just talked about, like you probably couldn't sing back a Led Zeppelin song or a Rolling Stones song, right?
Probably not.
Or even a Beatles song. But you could sing a Modern Talking, like one of the hits.
No, like Modern Talking, I don't know that well either. There's just a bunch of songs by them that I've listened to enough times because my parents listened to it. But it's not like I'm actually a Modern Talking fan.
Do you have a Modern Talking? Do you have
a
compilation? Do you have a playlist that you play that might have Modern Talking on it?
No.
Well,
but my sister does.
Okay. Yeah. And you guys have the same playlist. I have my answer. I rest my case. Anything of note in your... So that was your summer experience? Your mother telling you...
No, that wasn't my summer experience. Summer was great. It was a lot of, family and friends and things like that. But I did like a touristy attraction thing in Toronto.
Okay.
And I mean, I live here, so it's not... I guess, I don't know if I can call myself doing a tourist attraction. But anyway, I did the CN Tower Edge Walk.
Oh.
Yeah.
The thing where you go to the top and you walk outside?
That's right. So you're all the way...
Oh, it's like a Daredevil kind of thing.
Yeah, it was really, really fun.
Oh, wow. So for people who are not from Toronto, we have a really big tower that used to be the tallest tower in the world. I think it's second now or something.
Second, yeah.
And at the highest observation deck, you can actually go outside. They have some netting or something.
Yeah, so it's above the observation deck, actually, right below where the satellites and things are.
Oh, I can't do that.
And it's actually open, so there's nothing except for the flooring, and so it's open all around. And the funny thing is, there's no like netting in front of you.
What? Oh, so you could just fall off?
Well, you're attached. Like you've got like a harness, and you're attached to the top. There's like this ring, and there's some sort of like not a zip line. What do you call it? Those the things that clasp.
Harness.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Harness that you're attached to, and so you walk around that deck, but there's nothing in front of you. So there's actually a part of the experience that the tour guide tells you if you want, you can actually go right up to the ledge and kind of push yourself forward, and the harness will hold you. So you do this like Superman pose in front of open. I did it.
I don't want to even listen to it.
Oh, it was so much fun. And the thing is, the day that I went, it ended up being a little windy, so I thought they were going to cancel it. But they do it up to 28-kilometer winds.
Okay. It's a bit of a macho thing, right? It's like, what
I just like heights. That's what
do?
it is. Oh, I love heights. Your faces right now.
No, I went to Wonderland, and there was this ride, which was in the kids section that is called Ghoster Coaster. And it's for like 5-year-olds. And I was almost crying on it, and I was just ashamed.
It's like a roller coaster?
Yeah.
You go up and down?
Yeah. And it's only like, it takes only 40 seconds for the ride. I had to wait 1 hour in line to get on it. And then I was crying for the 40 seconds I was on it. And then I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm just watching shows here. I'm not doing anything else.
I'm not happy with the high heights without without proper in New York, I was on the top floor of a building and I had a balcony and I used to like go sit on the balcony and stuff, but I would never like go, when you go to the edge and you look straight down.
I
kind of avoided doing that.
I've done all of it.
I have a bit of vertigo, I think.
I've done bungee jumping. I've done that. Skydiving's next.
Yeah. It was a difficult summer in some ways because I feel like that, we go through these periods where we lose a lot of people, and there was a few weeks or days in a row where people I've had the opportunity to speak to over the years or meet or get to know, Tony Bennett, who was somebody that I had the chance to interview many times, the great Italian-American singer and crooner, and artist. And he was always had this elevated place in my mind because he was just such a lovely man, such a truly, truly wonderful performer and person to talk to and interviewee. And so it was tremendously sad that he died. And then Robbie Robertson, who was a songwriter and guitarist and singer in a group called The Band, which is this iconic Canadian band who ironically played Americana music. But Robbie Robertson and the band's music was very influential for me over the years. So, and he was also somebody that I had met a number of times and been very friendly with. And Robbie Robertson and the band's music was always very influential for me. So another tremendous loss. There were many others throughout the summer, but I thought I would mention somebody who we got the news of her passing, her death last week, which was Setareh Saidi. And a lot of Iranians around the world will know this name now because she was, I guess now very well known as the wife of Jian Mortazavi. But just a very, and somebody that I'd gotten to know, we hung out a few times. She was here when Jian Mortazavi was here. A very, very vibrant, young, very sharp, smart, active person, and just shocking because she was also very young. I mean, by very young, I mean I'm guessing under 40, and suddenly gone. An issue, a brain issue, and very, very sad news. And somebody who was very active in Jian Mortazavi's career and was basically kind of managing and helping to book their shows and do all the work around. She was very instrumental in having him come on our show. When she was here, actually, in the studio, Oogie, my dog, was so fond of Setareh that we were joking about Setareh stealing him, taking him away because he was just so fond of her. One thing I wanted to mention about her was, as we segue into the Roqe Roundup, too, is that she in the early days after the killing of Masamini and as the uprising began, I was at a dinner where she was there, and you may know, I don't know if you know this, Massa, but Setareh was before she left Iran, and
she was a journalist.
She was a journalist. In fact, she was one of the media that was in the Majlis. She was covering and interviewing and talking to these ahunds and stuff. So she was kind of an insider, in terms of knowing the regime, for lack of a better term. And when I saw her at this dinner, and it was in the early weeks of the uprising, and there was a lot of excitement about, thousands of people in the streets and everything. And I said to her, what do you think? This is looking pretty, is this the end of the regime? And she said, no. There's no chance. And I said, well, and it was kind of in that weird moment, and I guess we'll get into some of this as we talk about the 1-year anniversary next week. And there really was a moment, maybe in October, maybe September, through to November, where there really was a belief amongst even academics who study this stuff and activists who've been at it for years and observers in the media who've been talking about this. There was this belief that, oh no, this is the time, this is the end of the regime, and this is the revolution. And so it was kind of almost contrarian to hear somebody say no. And she said, no, you don't underestimate how deep and insidious this government is in terms of their ability to hang on to power, and she just wasn't convinced that there was so it was it's kind of a sad way to as one of the many ways she might be remembered. Sadly, she was right about guessing the state of what it's like in Iran and how difficult it is to actually shift things. But anyway, she will be remembered, she will be missed, and rest in peace, Setara Saidi. We are coming to you on roqemedia.com. It is there that you can link to all of our platforms: Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Instagram, CastBox. If you want to see visuals with Roqe, switch over to YouTube. If you like your Roqe descriptions and bulletins in English and in Persian, check us out on Telegram. If you want to support what we do here at Roqe, we really appreciate it. Go to that website, roqemedia.com, and become a Patreon member. That's a Roqe member on our Patreon page. It just means you subscribe. You pay a few bucks a month to support what we do at Roqe. If you're a regular listener or audience member, we really do appreciate that. roqemedia.com. If you've been thinking about it, it's a new season. Here's your chance to become a Roqe member on Patreon, roqemedia.com. Let's get to the Roqe Roundup. We've got Pegah and Massa here. So, I thought we'd talk about a few things that have been happening very recently and a few things that have happened over the summer with respect to Iran and the Iranian diaspora and the uprising as well. First of all, breaking news of some kind, I suppose, since I think this happened yesterday. The city of Richmond Hill, which is, of course, a city populated by a lot of Iranians just north of Toronto, just a few kilometers from where we are right now, is naming September 16th after Mahsa Amini. Massa, I think Massa here.
Yes.
You were at the city council meeting where this was.
Yeah.
Tell us about this.
I was there. So it was a suggestion made by Godwin Chan. He's a councillor in the city, and he suggested that it would be named after Mahsa Amini, her complete name, Mahsa Amini, and then that a tree would be planted and a bench would be placed in the central library of Richmond Hill, which was the place that 50,000 people gathered on October 1st. There is going to be a plaque there installed as well, which will remind everybody in time that such an event happened in Richmond Hill. It was one of a kind, and everybody was still amazed of how people showed up. It was organic. And the point that when everybody left, there was no garbage left. There wasn't any fights going on. It was really like calm, and it was all put together, and it was easily managed. Although 50,000 people came when the demonstration was over, everybody left. There was no traffic. I noticed it myself because I was there. And then in moments, everybody was gone, and everything was like calm and easy. It was really easy. It was arranged
and from a global perspective, it was the first of the really, really big ones. Later on, there was Berlin, and there was one in LA, and all that.
It was the biggest. But it was the first biggest.
The first big one, So it's kind of an amazing thing. I mean, again, for those of us who've been in Canada for many years, to think that a day would be named by a Canadian city would be named after a Kurdish girl from Iran who I mean, it's a beautiful gesture.
It is. We also have a street named after Mahsa Amini in Ottawa for a year.
Well, I mean, it is perhaps a good segue into getting into what we anticipate will be a day of action on the 16th on the anniversary. Just out of curiosity, before we get into some of the news, some of it somewhat, of course, disheartening in terms of what's been happening in Iran over the last few weeks since we last did our show. Do either of you think that this 1 year anniversary could rekindle the uprising in a way that would be similar to what happened last year? Pegah?
I think it'll definitely rekindle things. I'm sure we're going to see, a lot of people come out and show their discontent, their concern, their, have a way to commemorate what's been happening and to again bring light, the events that have taken place over the last year. But I'm more concerned about those in Iran and the crackdowns that the regime is going to, that they've already started, truthfully.
Yes.
I'm more concerned
They're
about
preempting
that.
it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I think, what happened last year, it was kind of this spark, and then it led to exactly what we saw, these large numbers of individuals coming out, and exactly what you mentioned, that moment where we thought it had gotten so big that this might be it. But I think now, knowing what we know and having seen the last year, and the regime have seen what has happened, they're going to crack down severely. They're going to be preemptive.
Will it be more than a day?
Yeah, I still think it'll be more than a day.
You think it'll be more than a day?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Massa?
me too. I think
You
it's
do?
gonna. Yeah, I think it's gonna continue. Although the heat of it has cooled down, there might not be as many people as we used to see in the beginning of Mahsa Amini revolution, as we call it. But I think it's going to continue. And what has captured the attention of the world is the continuation of these demonstrations, not only in Iran but outside too.
Absolutely, but it's not continuing. Let's be real. It's not continuing the way it was last November or October.
Yes.
So
things have changed.
When I
though.
say, is it going to rekindle? What do you mean things have changed?
They're doing more different stuff. They're naming days after Mahsa Amini. They're fixing rules and laws in order to kick out people from countries. They're doing different things.
But in terms of there being a liability to the existence of the regime, you would have to. I'm guessing you would have to agree that today, September 2023, the regime feels a lot more secure in its place than it would have 8 months ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would agree.
But here's what I mean. Just to add for me to answer that question myself, I would say you're right, Pegah. It depends on what It'll be interesting to see what happens inside Iran, and more importantly, how the government or the regime in Iran reacts to what happens in Iran.
Yes.
If, for example, there's a harsh crackdown that leads to the loss of more lives, that could actually rekindle things, bring things back to the. I mean, there's no question that Iranians en masse are dissatisfied with, their existence under this regime. We already know that. It's a matter of, in the ebbs and flows of the growing ebbs and flows of closer to revolution, etc., where we're going to be this fall. And I guess we'll find out something next week. In the meantime, there was a time when we wondered whether the American administration would stop enabling or dealing with Iran. There's actually been a deal that's called the September deal, in fact, between Iran and the United States. And this is part of something that I would term hostage diplomacy that Iran seems to be engaging in with the complicity or acceptance of Western countries, much to the chagrin of some observers. Who wants to tell us what's happening with this September deal? Go ahead, Massa.
So the September deal is actually a debate is going on about it. People are thinking that before Mahsa Amini was killed, there was a deal between U.S. and Iran, the governments of the countries, that was different than the original JCPOA, and that it was
the
a
nuclear
separate
deal, the original nuclear deal that Trump tore up, but there was a new one, just
what we call Barjam in Iran.
Right.
So people are saying that there are talks from Amir Abdollahian, the foreign minister of Iran, who was talking about September documents, and then they are interpreting that as a new deal between U.S. and Iran. But he's saying that it's not anything different than what it was originally. It was some amendments on the documents, and we were looking into ways to clear things and reopen the doors for more talks. So basically, this is what was going on.
And I think one of the things that has caused some controversy in regards to the September agreement or deals or whatever we want to call it at this point is that there was a level of secrecy to it. So now we're starting to hear this, but I think it was actually Amir Abdollahian himself who said that part of it was in secret talks with the United States. And that's the part that I actually wanted to point out. And this brings me back to my whole conversation about, being pessimistic about the United States and what they say about Iran, whether it's through the JCPOA, nuclear deals, talks, whatever we want to say, because ultimately it just seems like no matter what they're saying on the surface with, we support the movement and we believe in, woman life freedom movement and all of that, they're still shaking hands with the devil.
Yeah, and it would have been, even with the somewhat quiescent nature of the American public and stuff, it would have been politically unacceptable 7 or 8 months ago to be engaging with Iran in this way.
Exactly.
It just wouldn't have been allowed. Time magazine covers, everybody talking about the women of now. Again, insidiously and behind closed doors and covertly and calmly, the dealing has rekindled. And also the deal for exchanging hostages for billions of the release of billions of dollars. One obviously feels for anybody who's been taken hostage by this regime, and this is an ongoing issue that didn't start with Iran in the 21st century. Hostage-taking diplomacy, the quid pro quo of all that. But at this moment, there were a lot of notable actors in the Iranian opposition saying the one thing we shouldn't do is deal with the regime and give them billions of dollars back for hostages. And that's something that has just happened. And it kind of happened without that much of a stink. I didn't hear that much uproar about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's textbook explanation of enabling the regime, giving them resources. You're giving them billions of dollars in funds, and then turning around and saying, we condone what they're doing. Well, how does that?
We don't condone what
they're doing. Yeah, exactly. And on the whole topic of hostage diplomacy, I absolutely disagree with the entire concept of hostage diplomacy. I mean, it doesn't work for anyone. It doesn't work. We've seen that it doesn't work. It actually is only using those poor individuals who are the hostages as pawns in an environment where it's just for immediate gain for both countries. And then in terms of foreign relations, in terms of diplomacy, it's not doing anything in the long run.
What do you think, Massa, of the whole situation?
So Canada was actually one of the first countries who was opposed arbitrary detainment or hostage diplomacy when they had 2 people arrested in China. So Iran is not the only country who's doing this. Yeah. And then they were exchanging those 2 people for Meng Wanzhou, who was a financial manager of Huawei company. So my point is that this is not only happening in Iran. This is something that regimes like China, Iran, Russia, these kind of regimes use that as a means to get what they want. We've seen it with Iran many times. We had the case of Nazani Zaghari with Britain. We have now Mr. Jalali. We have we have this Swedish person who is now in Iran for 500 days and nobody talked about it. And they're taking this person to exchange it with Nouri, who is in Sweden right now. As long as, what my personal opinion is on this, as long as they are enabled to do so, they're going to continue doing it.
Exactly.
So there must be a stop someday.
But it's different from a prisoner exchange when you're giving over $6 billion or releasing $6 billion. That's quite a chunk of change, right? And
they're buying a person, right? They're buying a person back. As long as they're doing this, as long as they're giving what those regimes want, it's going to continue. It should stop someday. Like it's selfish to say this, but some people should be sacrificed for those countries to understand that this is not going to work anymore.
That's a tough thing to say if it's your family member or something. I know. But yeah, I mean that's been the position of pretty much a lot of the opposition. I mean, if there's something that people have been united on, it's don't give billions of dollars to the Iranian regime right now. So that's been happening. I wanted to mention a couple of the arrests. I know you got to take off before too long, Massa. Some notable names that have popped up in an otherwise quieter summer, if we compare things to last fall or the spring. Mehdi Yarahi. Tell us about him.
Mehdi Yarahi, he started supporting the woman life freedom very early on with what was called Surud Zan, or woman anthem, I would translate, and he ended up being arrested for it, and he is now on a financial ban where he can't do any financial interactions in Iran. He did another thing which was very brave of him.
Tell us what he does.
Oh, so he's a singer. He's a singer.
Yes.
And he's been supporting the Woman Life Freedom Movement with his songs. And the one that I mentioned earlier, Surud Zan, it was one of the earliest songs that came out, and it was covered by many other people, like activists, artists who wanted to like mention him and wanted to like mention the song altogether. And now the one is Ru Sari To Barda, which is like take off your hijab, which is basically encouraging women to take off their hijab, which is something that people are doing in Iran, and they've already been encouraged with the Woman Life Freedom Movement. But this song is specifically talking about it, and he was arrested for that reason. This is something that the government of Iran should, if they are listening to this, they should note that when they arrest some person, the number of searches for that specific song goes so high.
Right.
So
they turn it into a hit.
Everybody listens to it. Everybody listens to it.
I mean, I saw the video, like you were saying. I was one of those people who went and searched it, of course, after hearing the news of Mehdi Arahi's arrest. And one of the things that I noticed in the video was, this was such a pointed and blatant action. It was, the song title, Rusai to Bardar, literally, like you said, encouraging Iranian women to take off their headscarves. The opening scene of the music video is a black screen with some I guess, typage. And it says, the song is dedicated to the brave women of Iran who have been fighting in the woman life freedom movement. And then the video in and of itself depicts Iranian women without headscarves dancing. So all of these things are, very pointed messages to the regime and very pointed in light of what's been happening in the last year. So, a defiant act in and of itself to sing about this, then the video, then the message, all of these things. And I just thought it was so brave of him to do that. And like you mentioned, he's been at the forefront of this since last year.
Before we wrap up here, next week is the anniversary of the killing of Mahsa Amini. It's so heartbreaking to me to hear that Mahsa Amini's family has been attacked, has been followed. Her uncle has been arrested. What do we know about why they're being targeted?
So it's a method of scaring off people. As you said, they have been trying to do so and before the anniversary. They want to keep things quiet. They don't want any sparks. So what they're doing is that they're going to scare families who've already lost a loved one, who are sensitive and vulnerable, and they can't afford to lose another person. So they want to keep them quiet. That's a way of approaching this for the anniversary, to make people scared enough for them not to come out. And uncle of Mahsa Amini obviously was one of the people who was arrested for the same reason, I would say. And
one of the people who was bringing to light the words, the voices of Mahsa Amini's family was a journalist named Nazila Maroufian, who you wanted to speak about, Pegah.
Yeah, I really wanted to actually talk about her because I think she's the epitome of everything that we've been talking about over the last year. We often talk about resilience in this movement, and what better way to talk about resilience than this 23-year-old journalist who's been arrested 4 times just in the last few months. And most recently, I think it was yesterday, that there was an audio file made public where she mentioned that the last time she was arrested, she was sexually assaulted. And it's nothing new. I mean, it's something that we've talked about over the last year many times about, what these individuals go through, the psychological torture, the physical torture, and so many other things. But I really just wanted to point to the strength and resilience of this generation that we've talked about so many times, and to, just bring to light that as much as there's ebbs and flows in what's been happening over the last year, and we've talked about it a lot where things have gotten quieter, there are still individuals like Nazila who are fighting tooth and nail. So
we talk about so many, the term brave journalist gets thrown around in the North American context.
Exactly.
Think about this, a 23-year-old woman who's been to jail 4 times in Iran, and what she's doing, what she's standing for. It is remarkable. All right. Thank you both for being here. Next week is our season launch of Roqe. The Uprising 1 year later. I can promise you all that there is we've already confirmed some really interesting and prominent names from around the Iranian diaspora across the world who will be joining us for this launch and this show that is also in tribute to 1 year of the uprising. So we'll be back for that. In the meantime, thank you, Pegah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Massa.
Thank you both.
This is Full Time for Roqe for today. Remember, for all things Roqe related, go to our website, roqemedia.com. roqemedia.com. Thanks to the amazing team who put this show together. Back together forever for another season. Talented Anahita, Smart Pegah, Super Parisa, Savvy Roham, Bearded Omid, Methodical Kaveh, and sound person Louise. Thank you to all of you out there supporting us and sharing our content. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already on any or all of our platforms. Remember, you can support us at roqemedia.com. You can find me on Instagram at Jian Ghomeshi. See you for our big season launch next week. In the meantime, Mizum Bashi.